Going on? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Wealth Boot Camp, and we're boot camp tomorrow. And so I was getting ready to teach my students. We got 250 coming in this semester, so I'm really excited about that. But I was going through my notes and preparing for tomorrow, and I saw that there was some outrage kind of happening on different college campuses. I saw something happening at the University of Missouri, where young brothers holding a hunger strike to protest the way black students are treated on that campus. Also at Yale University, there's a whole issue of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity, which tends to be pretty white male-ish. And sometimes they're a little prickish. They were even pricks back when I was in college. Not all of them, but some of those guys, just kind of high testosterone guys. At least on my campus, they were very athletic. And I remember, kind of feeling like some of the SAEs were the guys that you might end up getting in a fight with, but but with that being said, though, obviously we can't generalize everybody. But there's a whole incident about them having a party at Yale and basically keeping the black girls out. Okay, or too many black people were there, or something like that. There's a kind of a conversation about this where the black students confronted the black one of the black deans, and I think the first black dean or something, about this incident and this issue, and it led to a spillover into other conversations about the lack of presence of black faculty, the treatment of black students, consistent discrimination, etc. Now, on one hand, there's a couple of thoughts I would throw in on this conversation. Number one, I support the students. I think that if you want something, you should definitely fight for it. I think the students should realize that you are the most powerful entity on your campus. The administration, they typically have these tactics that they use to distract you, keep you kind of off balance, unfocused. They identify who the leadership is, so they can try to undermine that. They know that student movements live and die based on a couple of people graduating. So I would just say if you're fighting for something, fight hard, be relentless. Don't give up, because there are situations like at Cornell University, from what I understand, in the 1960s, some brothers busted up in the administration building with guns and literally took over the administration building, and of course there were consequences to that. But now to this day, one of the things they demanded was an African American Studies department, and they still to this day have a great department in that area, one of the best in the country, because of their sacrifice. Okay, so with that being said, I would say fight like hell, fight for what you want. Don't take no for an answer. When people give you they'll give you bullshit answers, like or they'll request that you be patient. That's just kind of saying, like, please just let's just bide our time until you graduate, and then this will end. So don't be patient. Don't take no for an answer. Don't let people kind of tell you certain things aren't possible, certain things are not negotiable. Everything's negotiable, and that's just a fact. And I just know this from my own experience, leading student protests back when I was at the University of Kentucky. It got pretty heated. There was some violence, and we weren't backing down. I remember having face-to-face confrontations with the university president. His name was Charles Wethington III, and I would write my articles in the campus paper, and I called him Chuck. So I kind of poke at him like, "So Chuck, why aren't you talking to the black students, Chuck? What are you doing over there, Chuck? Why aren't you coming out, Chuck?" And this poor guy got so mad, and he wanted to meet with me, and I met with him. But the thing was, by meeting with me, he actually empowered me. I actually remember thinking, "Wow, this guy! I'm really getting to this guy." Okay, so I went right back and did another article, because he asked me. He actually specifically asked me, "Don't write anything about me." So of course, I mean, I'm 25, so of course I went right back and wrote about him right again. But anyway, so that half is done. Now here's the other side of that equation. This is me talking to black people, black students, etc., who certainly have a right to have black faculty. A lot of these universities, that they'll admit black people as athletes, typically, not so much as students, and then they might admit some as students, but you don't see a lot of black professors. And then when you have black professors there, a lot of times they don't get tenure. In fact, you may want to actually go and do a statistical inventory of your alma mater, and look at each department and ask them, how many African Americans have you given tenure to? African Americans specifically. I mean, remember, they might point out people of color, because they lump it all together to make the data look better. But literally, how many African Americans have you given tenure to in your department? And in many cases, the answer is actually zero. So it's pretty astonishing. It's one of the reasons I left Syracuse University, because I said, this racism, I'm not dealing with this. So that flips to the other side of the equation. The other side of the equation is that black people have to understand that when you're getting mistreated in these predominantly white environments, remember that you don't have to be there. You have to ask yourself, why am I fighting to get into a white man's party? Like, why do I feel like I need to be included? Like, he needs to include me in everything he does, and if he doesn't include me, then that's mean, that's racist, that's horrible. Um, I mean, how often do you really see white people protesting the fact that they couldn't get into a black party? You know, black people had a party, said, "Look, this is an African American party, and we don't want anybody who's not black here." I mean, would you really see white people outside picketing and protesting, saying, you didn't invite me to, you wouldn't let me in your party, and we want to be around black people? Um, why is it that we are so eager to be at predominantly white institutions, but we don't support anything that's ours? I think we have to ask ourselves that question, and I would speculate partly that part of the reason that we're so eager to be around white people is that we see whiteness as some sort of upgrade in our humanity. We see whiteness or proximity to whiteness as something that makes us better people, right? I am a better person because I go to Yale with all these white people who are treating me like shit. We're a little bit like the abused stepchild who just really wants to be included in family gatherings so bad that it hurts his feelings when the family that's not even his family that adopted him doesn't want him around, and he doesn't even want to be around his own family because he thinks they're bad and dirty and all these other things. You got to realize that it's a little bit dysfunctional that we are so eager to be in the space of white people that we will protest and march and rally and scream and kick and yell and sue and fight because they won't let us in their facilities, in their institutions. We do have black institutions now. Don't Let's not forget that. Not just HBCUs, but there are other places you could be around black people. It really spills over into corporate America. You graduate from Yale and you've got these excellent credentials, and then you think that these big corporations that are founded and built by whites, run by whites, controlled by whites, owned by whites, all this other stuff, that they're going to really treat you the way they treat their own people. And I think that what that indicates to me is a lack of understanding of how economic warfare kind of works. If you look around the world, you'll see that most ethnic groups support their own people. If you go to China, they're going to hire a Chinese person before they hire you, period. If you go to India, same thing. And there's something about being African American where we somehow consider, proximity to whiteness to be a type of progress. You'll hear a black person say, "Well, I'm proud of him because he's the first black man to ever be accepted to Harvard University." But you never hear a white person say, "Oh my goodness, one of the most high achieving white people ever was the first white guy to get accepted into Howard." Howard, Morehouse, Spelman, those are great schools. Spelman College is actually, in my opinion, better for black women than any school in the country. Any school in the country. So I think that as we fight and we protest, we have to remember a couple things. Number one, you're dealing with a group of people that isn't exactly known for their compassion. You're dealing with very barbaric people, in some cases, arrogant people, especially talking about SAEs and the Ivy League pricks, people like that. They're not gonna really give you anything unless they have to. they're not. They just they're like, no, we got ours. You go get yours. Quit bothering me. Get away from me, right? So you're dealing with barbaric people, which means that this sort of civilized approach, that says, "Oh well, because I'm right, you should listen to me, or because I'm telling you the truth, you should listen to me." That's really not going to work. You're going to have to kind of fight. The barbaric people who they kind of only understand aggression. The United States is a country that has a history of just nasty, using nasty tactics to get what they want worldwide in military, economics, etc. And so sometimes to win a nasty fight, you got to be a nasty person. But the second thing I'd say is you have to kind of ask yourself, is our self-esteem problem? Do we have a self-esteem issue in the black community that leads us to feel compelled to chase white people around and beg them to let us into their parties? Like almost as if we act like it's some sort of horrific violation of some sacred pact that they wouldn't let us into the party that they were holding for themselves. I mean, how would you feel if every time you held a party for your family, somebody got mad because they couldn't come to your party? You probably say, "Go to your own damn party. Go. Where's your family at? Go hang out with your people." Right? So, I'm not gonna say that there isn't some merit to these protests. I think that these campuses are certainly racist. You saw Elena Kagan get nominated to the Supreme Court when she spent by the your first biracial president, who she worked at Harvard Law School for what 6 years as the dean. She hired 32 people. 30 of those people were white men. One was a white woman. One was an Asian. Um, I mean, this racism is real. It's rampant. I think Harvard Law School had only given tenure to one black person in 200 years, and they gave tenure to one black woman that week because Roland Martin and I raised hell about Elena Kagan's nomination. They wanted the nomination to go through, so suddenly they called her up and increased the pay or something. They did something to make that happen because she'd been sitting on the fence for a while, but she accepted the offer that week. So that was a pure political strategy in response to what Roland and I were saying about Elena Kagan's hiring record. So the racism is very, very real, but you've got to eventually get to the point where you've got to ask yourself, what battles am I picking, and are these the right battles to pick? I mean, am I really gonna spend my life fighting to earn a spot in a fundamentally uncomfortable, unfair environment where they're gonna let me in the door of that white corporation, white university, white fraternity, whatever? But because I'm the only black person in there, I'm gonna be on pins and needles. I'm gonna be mistreated. I'm always gonna be subjugated. I'm always gonna be reminded that you ain't nothing but a second class nigga. Why would you fight for that? Maybe you can fight to build something that's yours. Maybe you can do whatever people did to build whatever institutions you're trying to become a part of and build something for your own family so that in a generation or two, your child can say, my great great grandfather, my great great grandmother built this after she graduated from Yale University, and she started a university or she started this corporation, and now it's worth billions of dollars, and my kids don't have to work in an uncomfortable environment. That's something worth aiming for. That's something worth fighting for. Because even if people let you into their house, it's still their house. When you are old and gray and dead and gone, they're going to pass that shit down to their children, and they ain't going to leave your kids nothing. Build something of your own. Stop begging people for other stuff. It looks pathetic. It makes us look weak. It makes us look like we have nothing of our own worth having, because everything that we think is valuable is in somebody else's possession. We're abandoning everything we have to go over and sit next to somebody who don't even like you. It doesn't even make any sense. It's stupid. That's all I want to say. I'm done. I gotta go. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.